Welcome back to a new episode of Ray Hall Talking College Ball. I'm your host, Ray Hall. I appreciate you guys tuning in, doing a Week 10 recap. Exciting Week 10. Kind of give a disclaimer, warning to you guys before the week started that these weekends that aren't anticipated to be the high-profile matchups kind of give the juiciest storylines or the craziest outcomes. So saw a lot of that this weekend, which we'll cover most of them. If we don't cover it today, we'll get to it on Tuesday. And do a little cleanup then. But for today, we're just going to jump right into it, starting with Vanderbilt at Texas. Vanderbilt travels to Austin, leads with 31-34 loss. First game started out really fast, all in favor of Texas. 75-yard screen pass to Wingo from Manning, taken to the house. But it was 17-0 before Vanderbilt started fighting back. And Vanderbilt's just not a team designed to come from behind like that. Now, they made a valiant effort in the second half, making it a game. Had the chance to get the onside kick to try and get a field goal to force overtime. But grand scheme of things, Vanderbilt knows this. They're not a team that's designed to come from behind. They want to take the lead early, play with the lead, control the game clock, and kind of just suffocate the other team. Didn't happen today. Texas, wouldn't say they're fixed, but they looked a lot better. They're improving the past couple of weeks, kind of since that Kentucky game, then the Mississippi State game. Second half, they look really well. The first half of this game, they're improved, kind of took their foot off the gas, allowed Vanderbilt to get back into this game. But if they can keep improving, they're still alive for the college football playoff chance. So it's a possibility that Texas can sneak in. Even if they lose one more, they do have two tough games coming up with Georgia and Texas A&M. Both of them being, I think they get Texas A&M home the last game of the year, but Georgia in between the hedges. So if you look at their resume, they'll be a 9-3 team with losses to Ohio State, one of Georgia or Texas A&M, meaning they have a win over the other one. And the ACC kind of imploded today, opening the door for more SEC teams or Big Ten teams to get a bid. But it's kind of looking like the SEC would be the fourth or fifth team, or the conference get a fourth or fifth team in at this point. Really, Arch is starting to look better. He's looking improved. He's looking more comfortable out there. Kind of crazy to think that, hey, if you give a younger quarterback more time to develop, he's going to improve week by week. He's not just going to come out there and light the world on fire. Hard to say that when you see a guy like Julian Sayin in his first couple of starts for Ohio State to do that. I think it's a little bit different situation, but also we have to give these guys, especially these young quarterbacks, time to develop and improve week to week. Vandy, they're still alive for an at-large bid. I think pretty much the SEC championship is out of reach now at this point. Some craziness would have to happen, and they could still get in the SEC championship. But I think really what they should be looking for is that at-large bid. Really, the big game comes down to Tennessee, last game of the year. Can they win that? Can they not slip up along the way? But that rivalry between Tennessee, where Tennessee will still technically be alive, it would take a lot of extra help as a 3-loss team to get in. But that would be a fun game to watch. I think it's the best thing about these rivalry weekends is teams that routinely don't have anything to play for other than the rivalry, which I'm not saying is nothing to play for, can also have some added bonus to these games that one, they can either punch their ticket to the playoff or ruin their rival's chance at getting to the playoff in the postseason. So that's always a added benefit to those games. All right, moving on to the next game. Miami does it again, losing 20-26 at SMU in overtime. Not only Miami specifically, but also, don't want to single one out, but Carson Beck, he threw that costly interception in overtime. They're driving on their first possession in overtime. It was either 2nd and 5, like on the 10, or they were goal to go. It was a halfback angle route and throws the interception, basically sealing the game for SMU. Then only needing a field goal or a touchdown to win. They ended up getting the touchdown, making it 26-20. But there was a reason why you came into the season Carson Beck was available, is because he's been known to kind of have those meltdowns, either under pressure or in the pressure situations. He's been on a better than expected this year. But in a lot of those games, the pressure wasn't really at the highest, and he's been able to kind of play with the lead and not be expected to do too much. But he has shown time and time again, when you put the full weight of the team on his shoulders, he will crack. So, and then that kind of goes to Miami in general. Like a microcosm of the Carson Beck situation kind of applies to Miami as well, where they have everything set up, they need to do the right thing, a little bit of pressure, and they crack. Honestly, the ACC as a whole has kind of had a terrible weekend and fell. But Miami specifically, remind you, this is a team up to like week 6 or week 7 before the Louisville loss. People were talking about like, hey, this is a top 3 team in the country. I'm not sure there's any other team out there besides maybe Ohio State that looks like this team, is performing like this team. And I'm not sure if they ate the rat poison or got too comfortable, but it's come back to bite them. Now they're going to be missing the ACC championship, more than likely missing the playoffs. The only way it could work is if them and Notre Dame are kind of fighting for the last at-large bid, but I'm not even sure if that's a possibility at this point. So, disappointing season for the U. But SMU, hey, congrats to you guys. Your ground game wasn't going today. Jennings was able to make plays, put him in an opportunity to tie that game, then also let a drive in the overtime, which it doesn't sound too impressive. It's like, okay, 25 yards, need to at least get a field goal, but being able to seal it with the touchdown, not even leaving a doubt, leaving it up to a college kicker's leg, getting the 26-20 win. I think this kind of just proves, though, that the ACC is a one-bid league, especially as we go into this next game we're talking about, Georgia Tech at NC State, the Wolfpack winning 48-36 over the Yellow Jackets. Really disappointing. A lot of people were talking about why Haynes King wasn't getting more Heisman love, and he put on a Heisman performance today. I think 400 yards in the air, over 100 yards on the ground, 500 total yards, but that defense just gave them zero help. So unfortunately for Haynes King, I don't think he'll be able to move up in the Heisman rankings, which he probably doesn't care about the individual accolades. And Georgia Tech's still set up to have a chance to play for the ACC championship, make the playoffs. Everything's still there for them. Their just margin for error now is a lot less smaller. NC State, man, they've had some impressive wins this year. This win, obviously, the win over Virginia. Now, you can say Virginia's not a typical powerhouse, but it's still an 8-1 football team that they were able to beat. But I think this kind of sealed the deal that the ACC today is going to be a one-bid league. There were some scenarios people were working out. Georgia Tech would have to finish the season undefeated the rest of the way, which would mean a win against Georgia in the Mercedes-Benz Dome, and then probably lose to UVA in the ACC championship. So then the ACC would get that bid from UVA, and then Georgia Tech can get an at-large bid. But if that doesn't play out like that, there's very few situations where the ACC can now get 2 teams in. Dave Doran, he's a great football coach. Perfect coach for NC State. He's like at that level where you don't have to worry about him really getting poached, just because he's been doing it for so long. His age, I'm not saying he's old, but he's not trying to climb up the ranks as much anymore. But he's still a solid coach that can deliver some impressive years for you. Kind of a step down from I think 2 years ago was when they were really impressive. But hey, he knows how to get his players motivated, knows how to get them prepared, knows the game of football well. So that's really all you can ask for, especially for some of these schools in the ACC. Like, if you look at a school like Virginia Tech, they would love to have him as his coach and love that, like, their floor to be kind of 7 wins, even 6 wins, but still playing competitive football. So hats off to them. Next thing we're going to cover, moving down to the notes, is Oklahoma at Tennessee. I would say probably the biggest game of the weekend, maybe second biggest game if you want to say Vandy, Texas was bigger. But Oklahoma beating Tennessee 33-27 in Neyland Stadium. And it kind of didn't happen the way you expected. You would expect that John Mateer would have a great performance, and that was going to led them to victory. And he didn't play terribly. He was obviously active on the ground with his feet, decent through the air. But I think it was like 160, 170 yards through the air, a pick and a touchdown. Had a crucial touchdown in the fourth quarter to kind of take the lead. and make it, I believe, was that point a 9-score game, a 9-point game. Then Tennessee came back and kicked a field goal to make it a 6-point game. But really, the story of the game is that Oklahoma's defensive front was able to kind of eliminate the run game for Josh Heupel's offense, force Joey Aguilar to be in passing situations, kind of make them one-dimensional. And that offense, it's not an offense that's going to really out-scheme you just in the passing game. The way it works is you commit people to the box to stop the run game, and then you can take advantage over the top, or you have these quick passes going outside, so they have to lighten up the box, and then you're able to thrash them through the run game. It's very complementary. It's not like it's not complex concepts. He's kind of shown in the past year or so that he's going to switch it up from his normal wide splits to give different looks. But he's not out there just kind of like scheming guys wide open based off like these insane concepts. It's really just man-to-man or losing a guy because you have too many people in the box or too many people not in the box to stop the run. But Oklahoma D-line, they're able to stop the run, only having six guys in the box, able to play 5 guys in the back. Joe Aguilar still made plays, almost 400 yards, but he had those 2 interceptions. And that's going to happen when you're playing from behind and you have to force the guy to throw the ball. I was thinking about when I was watching this game, if you had Aguilar with the run game last year, Dylan Sampson, and also that defense last year, maybe take some of the receivers they have this year and their current status and put them on that team last year, that would be a very, very dangerous team. But unfortunately, it's not how it works. You can't really build year to year in college football with the NIL and only having 2-3 years of players playing on your roster. So kind of a disappointing season for Tennessee, which if you're a Tennessee fan, that should be good. A disappointing season for you is you can finish 9-3, and your losses are only to ranked teams, and that will be viewed as a solid year. It was not that case not too long ago. So try and build off of that. Heupel's doing a good job at Tennessee. I don't think he's leaving anytime soon, nor should you want him to leave anytime soon. You just got to keep building. He has to take that next step, that next phase of evolution, kind of like how we talked about Lane Kiffin has taken that next step. Josh Heupel is still kind of looking forward to take that next step. But also going back to Oklahoma, like I said, Mateer wasn't really the X factor in this game. It's more so that Oklahoma's kind of developed a run game now, which was a question a lot of people had for the first half of the season is how are they going to generate offense if Mateer gets slowed down, especially with that injury. It looked ugly there for a little bit. Xavier Robinson's come on, featured back, and they've been able to run the ball. So Oklahoma's still alive, still have a brutal schedule to finish, still get LSU. It doesn't look as bad, or it doesn't look as daunting now, but still has a road trip to Tuscaloosa to play Alabama. So their margin for error is very, very small. And Tennessee, I would say they're basically all but eliminated. They would have to get a crazy amount of help. They definitely don't control their own fate. They have to get a crazy amount of help to get in as a 9-3 at large. Especially if you look at their wins. I think that in that scenario, the most impressive win would be Vanderbilt. So yeah, it's definitely a tall task if you still have postseason aspirations. But I wouldn't say it's completely disappeared. Sticking in the SEC, moving down to Jacksonville, you had the Georgia versus Florida game. Georgia pulls out a nail-biter, 24-20. Georgia is like the most resilient team in college football. Every time you think you have them dead, if you don't double tap, make sure they're fully buried, they're going to come back alive. The only game they haven't been able to do that in was the Alabama game, and they're a 4th and 1 away from scoring a touchdown, and that game could look differently. Still, there's a lot of time left in that game. Who knows if Alabama comes back and takes the lead again. But it kind of goes to the second part of this. Georgia has to stop having these slow starts. Their most comfortable big wins this year were, the one I want to talk about mostly is the Ole Miss game. And they were able to, I think, only either be leading by 1 or trailing by 1 going into half that game. These slow starts are going to kill Georgia, especially against these better opponents. You saw it against the Alabama team. Their defense played amazing, held them 0 points in the second half. But at that point, Alabama already built the lead, so they weren't able to come back. And in those situations where you have to make these second half comebacks, you have to play almost perfect. And that's a lot to ask of your team. But man, they are resilient. They're battle tested. They're a dangerous team. If you look at the stat box, there wasn't anything crazy from this game to be like, wow, Georgia really did this well, or Florida really did this well. They couldn't, nothing like that. A lot of people will point to the incomplete pass that looked like it was a catch, called incomplete on the field. That's just a hard play. Not enough evidence to overturn it. I think if it was called a catch on the field, they wouldn't be able to turn it into an incomplete pass either. Definitely a hard break, tough break for Florida, and they don't want to hear this. But never let it rest into the referee's hands. That's when you get beat by the refs. If you beat a team so bad that the refs can't have an impact on it, then it doesn't matter. But these close games, those calls are definitely highlighted. So Florida can be spoiled for the rest of the year. I think they still have a matchup against Ole Miss. I don't know if that a 10-2 Ole Miss would actually spoil their season, but it could show that coach for Ole Miss, like, hey, we don't even have you, and we're able to beat your team. Why don't you come over here so we can do? That roster is very talented. I said it going into this game. This is the closest these two rosters have been since probably the COVID year. And it's just unfortunate they don't have a head coach they can rally on and someone that can develop Lagway and actually have him use all of his skills and ability to upgrade this offense. All right, next game is USC at Nebraska. USC wins a tight one, 21-17. Obviously, Dylan Raiola went out during the game. I think it was in the second quarter before halftime or either right after halftime. Nasty ankle injury, leg injury. Hopefully, in those situations, you'll hear it a lot of times. It's actually better if they broke a bone than had like a high-grade ankle sprain because all the ligament damage and everything like that takes a long time to recover. It's better if you just break it. Breaks are generally easy to fix comparatively to like getting those ligaments back healthy because the timetable for that can take a couple of weeks to a few months before you're back to normal. But hopefully he's healthy. But the real problem is even when he was in there, their offense didn't look as good as it should be. Going into the season, you're like, okay, we have Raiola coming back. We have Dana Holgerson calling the plays. Like, this offense could be a problem this year. And people worry about the defense. Well, the defense played great tonight. Made Jaden Maiava look terrible. It's probably his worst performance of his college career, at least the one I've watched from start to finish. But the offense just wasn't there. And if you want to blame it on Raiola getting hurt and them playing a second-string quarterback, that's fine. But even when he was in there, I don't think it was improved to the level that it should be. Hats off to USC, though. Able to grind out a tough win when they don't have their best stuff against a Big Ten team on the road. Kind of another stepping stone in the Lincoln Riley career progress, especially at USC, winning these tough games. Defense, I think you can kind of put the USC's doesn't play defense narrative to bed. They've shown up time and time again this year. All right, and the last game we cover is Cincinnati at Utah. Utah gets a 45-14 win over the Bearcats. Yards-wise, there wasn't really a huge disadvantage in this game. I think both were around 450 yards. I think Utah's like 480, Cincinnati's like 430. But Utah being able to get one more turnover, so I think turnover battle was 3-2 or 2-1, and then also a punt return for a touchdown. That really opened up the game for the Utes. Cincinnati kind of turned back to a pumpkin this game. Couldn't really match up physically, at least along the lines of Utah. And that's kind of what I expected from Utah to start this year, especially in the Big 12. Them being able to kind of just impose their will on opposing teams with how their offensive and defensive line were kind of constructed. But obviously we haven't gotten that fully this year. Texas Tech game, you can blame it on Dampier being hurt or injured. Didn't think it made much of a difference. And then the BYU game, he was healthy for that game. So that one's still, I think BYU and Texas Tech are just solid teams. And Utah didn't really have their fastball that night. So, but at another game, we're not going to do a full breakdown on it, but just touching on it. Houston lost to West Virginia. Shout out Rich Rod and getting a huge win for the Mountaineers. But that also kind of shakes up the whole Big 12 conference championship picture. Cincinnati still has a chance. It's their first conference loss. And it's to Utah, who has 2 conference losses, so they're going to be able to stay above them, at least in the standings. But big game, I think it's November 15th, so not this upcoming weekend, but the next. They host BYU in Cincinnati. And BYU still undefeated. I think they play Cincinnati and still Texas Tech. So there's an opportunity for Cincinnati to still remain in the conference championship and kind of steal that bid. It'll be interesting to see. I think definitely the ACC, and I'm not even sure if you had to look at the odds, which conference over the ACC and the Big 12 has a better chance of getting 2 teams in right now. I think you can make a good argument for Texas Tech in the Big 12 just because they look more so like a power team. But Georgia Tech still has a not easier but better schedule to prove more to actually get the 2 teams in from the ACC. So that'll shake up. And then really interesting if a team that we haven't mentioned during this breakdown who wouldn't say like a scary game, but definitely somewhat alarming. Notre Dame playing Boston College. I think winning 25-10. But if Notre Dame loses another game, what does that do? Does it open up a chance for another Big 12 or ACC team to get in, or does it open up for a Big 10 or SEC team to get into the playoffs? I think comfortably right now you can say Big 10 and SEC are going to take up 7 spots. Can they take up 8? Can they go all the way up to 9? We'll have to see how it plays out. But yeah, that's all I have this week for the Week 10 breakdown. Going to be coming back to you at Tuesday. I'm going to give you my rankings, cover some of the games I didn't get to today, and touch on some of the future games of Week 11 that we'll be having next week. As always, like, subscribe, comment. Follow me on X at @RayHall_collegefootball, CFB. Please, if you have the chance or opportunity, leave some comments with some questions you'd like me to answer, and I'll get them answered on the Tuesday episode. Thank you, guys.